Karen thought the guard was just part of a show and crossed the line, but one word from him changed everything. What happened next turned into an unexpected lesson for everyone. London was bustling with the noise of tourists that day. Buckingham Palace towered over the square, standing as a symbol of enduring order. At the gates, a royal guard stood at attention. A young man of about 30, clad in a perfectly tailored uniform and a tall bearskin hat. His expressionless gaze and rigid posture underscored the seriousness of his duty. The crowd around him buzzed with excitement. Some snapped photos, while others tried to make the guard laugh by shouting jokes. But he remained as still as a statue, unbothered by the commotion. Pushing her way to the front row came a middle-aged woman. Her appearance stood out. A bright pink t-shirt emblazoned with the words, "Queen of Everything," a glittering purse slung over her shoulder, and a loud voice. Her name was Karen, and it was clear she craved attention. "Hey, you!" she shouted as she approached. "Smile for the camera, pal. I pay taxes so you can stand here." Karen laughed, glancing back at the crowd. Her laughter earned a few chuckles, but most people remained silent. The guard standing at his post showed no reaction. His gaze remained fixed ahead, as though Karen didn't exist. She stepped closer. "Are you even alive? Maybe you need a little encouragement?" Karen waved her hand in front of his face as if trying to catch his attention. The crowd murmured. Phones began to appear as people started recording. A man holding a child quietly remarked, "Let's step back. This is going too far." Karen ignored him. She took another step forward, positioning herself directly in front of the guard. "So, you're just going to stand there?" she said with defiance. "You think you're in charge? It's just a costume, and you're just part of the set." Her voice grew louder. A few people in the crowd shook their heads, but Karen didn't notice. She reached out her hand, as if about to touch the guard's hat. The crowd froze, watching her every move. Pleased with her success, Karen continued her performance. Her loud voice rang out across the square once more. "Come on, let's see that saber. I want to know if it's real or just a toy." The crowd hummed with unease. A few people exchanged disapproving glances, but most stayed quiet, clearly curious to see what would happen next. Cameras were raised again, flashes sparked, and someone started live streaming with rapid-fire comments pouring in. One tourist spoke up quietly. "Ma'am, you really shouldn't. The guards don't take kindly to jokes like that." Karen turned to him with a smug smile. "Oh, come on, he's just a guy in a costume. What's the big deal?" she said dismissively, waving her hand as if brushing off his concern. She stepped even closer to the guard, almost within touching distance. "Well, what do you have to say? Or can't you talk at all?" she taunted, her voice dripping with challenge. The guard remained still. His gaze showed no emotion. He stood as only a royal guard could, with pride and discipline, completely unfazed by Karen's antics. Feeling emboldened as all eyes turned to her, Karen extended her hand. Her fingers nearly touched the guard's saber when he made a barely perceptible step to the side. His movement was so precise and swift that Karen froze in momentary confusion. The crowd fell silent. In the stillness, the guard's clear, firm voice broke through. "Ma'am, you have crossed the boundary." Karen stepped back for a moment, startled, but quickly straightened her shoulders, her face reddening further. "Boundary? What boundary? I'm a tourist, and I have rights. That saber is part of my experience, got it?" With exaggerated defiance, she stepped forward again, deliberately crossing the white line that separated the guard from the crowd. The crowd gasped. All eyes darted between Karen and the guard, waiting for his response. In the back, quiet whispers began to ripple through the group. "This has gone too far. Someone needs to stop her. Her behavior is absolutely unacceptable." But Karen paid no attention to the disapproving glances or murmurs. Raising her voice again, she shouted, "What are you going to do? Just stand there like a statue. This is honestly hilarious." The guard didn't flinch. His cold, unwavering gaze was fixed straight ahead, but there was now a palpable tension in the air. One man in the crowd spoke up louder. "Get her out of here! This is disrespectful!" Hearing this, Karen spun around sharply, her expression growing more aggressive. "Mind your own business! I paid for my trip to London, and I'll see everything I want to see." Her bravado was starting to seem forced. Her face twisted with anger, and her movements became erratic. The crowd, once captivated by her antics, now seemed uncomfortable with her behavior. Karen reached out her hand again, this time with more determination. The crowd collectively held their breath. The crowd grew louder. From the back, shouts began to ring out. "Stop her! This is disgraceful!" "Are you serious? This is a tradition. How can you demean it like this?" Karen whipped around at the shouting, her face a mix of irritation and disdain. "Tradition?" she scoffed, rolling her eyes. "It's just a show for tourists. It's their job to entertain us." Her loud, sharp voice carried over the crowd, eliciting even more indignation from some onlookers. People exchanged glances as the tension in the air thickened. The guard remained as motionless as ever, but something within him shifted. A second passed, then another. Suddenly, he took a single step forward. His movements were so smooth and precise that the crowd collectively held its breath. "Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for this incident," he began, his hands clasped behind his back as he addressed the crowd. His voice was deep, calm, and dignified. "The Royal Guard is not a show. It is a symbol of heritage that we honor and protect. We stand here not for entertainment, but to serve." Though there was no anger in his tone, every word carried weight, landing with sharp precision. A hush fell over the crowd. Then, a single round of applause broke the silence. Seconds later, the entire crowd joined in, clapping in support. Karen, red as a beet, stood frozen in the middle of the scene, caught completely off guard. She opened her mouth to speak, but found herself unable to form words. A palace security officer approached the guard, his stern gaze fixed on Karen as he spoke. "Ma'am, you will need to leave the premises," he said curtly and firmly. "What? Are you kidding me?" Karen exclaimed, her voice rising as she tried to regain her footing. "I'm a tourist. I have rights." The officer didn't flinch. "You have crossed the boundaries of respect," he said, taking a step toward her. The crowd watched in breathless anticipation. Some people lifted their phones to record what was happening. Karen glanced around, searching for support, but found none. Her face burned even brighter, and after a moment of hesitation, she reluctantly stepped back. As she began retreating, someone in the crowd muttered sarcastically, "Well, she's definitely making the news now." The guard resumed his position with practiced precision, returning to his perfect stance. His calm, collected demeanor remained unchanged, but his words lingered in the minds of everyone present. The crowd, now buzzing with admiration, began to clap again. People exchanged approving nods, and some even cheered. "Now that's what honor looks like," someone whispered, a sentiment many seemed to share. Karen stormed off the palace grounds, gesturing angrily and muttering complaints. Her steps were quick and full of fury, as if she were trying to convince herself she was still in the right. The crowd sent her off with loud applause. "Finally!" Someone in the front row sighed. "This is the best thing I've seen all vacation," another added, laughing. Karen glanced back for a moment, her face blazing with humiliation. She muttered something under her breath, but her words were lost in the crowd's noise. The security officer followed behind her calmly, gesturing toward the exit. "You'll hear from me," Karen shouted, waving her shiny purse dramatically. But her voice sounded desperate now, and no one paid her any attention. Meanwhile, a few people started uploading videos of the incident to social media. One caption read, "Royal Guard 1, Karen 0. Another joked, "You need to see this, pink purse of the year." The clips began going viral even before Karen left the square. On one phone screen, a paused frame showed the iconic moment, the majestic guard standing tall in his immaculate uniform, while Karen, with her furious expression and outstretched hand, appeared utterly defeated. The caption read, "When you want a show but end up getting a lesson." The guard, meanwhile, silently resumed his post. His movements were deliberate and precise, as if nothing had happened. Adjusting his tall bearskin hat, he returned to his unyielding stance. The crowd, now quieter and filled with respect, watched him in awe. A young boy standing next to his mother whispered, "Mom, he's like a real hero." The woman smiled and placed a hand on her son's shoulder. "Yes, sweetheart, he is a hero." The crowd began to disperse, but the atmosphere had shifted. A sense of respect and admiration lingered in the air. Those who had previously joked or tried to provoke the guard now viewed him in a different light. Online, the videos continued to gain traction, with comments pouring in. "This guard embodies dignity. What a display of honor and strength. Respect to this man. Karen got what she deserved. People like her have gotten away with too much for too long." The pink purse, Karen's furious face, and the guard's stoic professionalism quickly became memes. One particularly popular image showed the guard with the caption, "Calm is stronger than chaos." Back at the square, the guard stood motionless, continuing his duty as if nothing had happened. And in that moment, everyone present realized they weren't just seeing a man in uniform. They were witnessing a living symbol of tradition, unshaken by disrespect.